Authoritarian regimes like total control. In the case of Kazakhstan, and certainly under Nursultan Nazarbayev's long rule, the regime was to a degree even popular among many people, and certainly Nursultan Nazarbayev was popular among many people. But one of the issues I think we can say is that the regime itself doesn't know how popular it is because it doesn't acknowledge dissent. And so you've got this very top-down, coming from the top, from the capital, policy of crushing all forms of dissent in order not to have to tackle them. You've got people on the ground all over Kazakhstan in the regions who are afraid of the consequences if something happens in their town, in their village, in their region. They're afraid of getting into trouble with the people at the top, and therefore they also take the initiative when it comes to tackling dissent. And that's, I would say, sometimes that's one of the reasons we get some of the absolutely absurd situations we have in Kazakhstan, such as a man, detained for holding up a blank piece of paper in recent months. When you witness protests in Kazakhstan, arrests of protesters, you've got, very worried security forces and also political leadership on the ground who are trying to make sure they're not the ones who come to the attention of Nursultan as being a problem with tackling dissent, with having dissent coming out in their regions. This is a window of opportunity for Kazakhstan to change. We see President Tokayev promising to liberalize the law on public assembly. Public assembly is one of the key battlegrounds in Kazakhstan in this transition, along with freedom of expression. These are two crucial civil liberties that the people are demanding for themselves now. We do see some easing up on the attitude to protesters. We've seen the first legally sanctioned protests taking place that the authorities have given permission for. It's been many, many years since the authorities, almost a decade, since the authorities gave any permission to protest in Kazakhstan for an opposition rally rather than something else. And we've also seen protesters defying the demand that they should have permission, but we have seen in some cases those protests where they don't have permission proceed without arrests, in fact, sometimes. For example, we recently witnessed the most extraordinary sight in Almaty of about 50 young people marching through the centre of the city, making very bold demands for political reform, and there were no arrests at their protest. So these are promising signs. However, President Tokayev has some serious constraints on his power. We do know that Nursultan Nazarbayev has power on paper. He has some legal powers to be involved in ruling Kazakhstan, and also he has a lot of unofficial powers too, and unofficial influence. So this does beg the question of how far, even if President Tokayev wants to deliver liberalization, as he does claim to want to do, how possible is this? And we can also see, for example, that security hawks have a lot of power in Kazakhstan, and it's unlikely that they believe in liberalization, and it's very likely that they have Nazarbayev's ear and he has their ear, and that there's going to be a lot of pushback at any attempts at liberalization.